Hi, friends. This week, I actually want to go back to a series that I haven't done in a while. Actually, how long has it been? Oh, dang. Okay, well, I'm doing some more dollar store makeovers. I can't stay away from the dollar store. It just has so much fun stuff to make over. I pulled out just some of it. I still have a drawer full of other stuff. And we have this nice selection of stuff. We have a crate, a puzzle photo frame, a squishy, a water bottle, a floating shelf. I have lots of ideas, but I think first I'm going to go with this box. So looking at it, it's just a simple wooden box with this rainbow pattern on one side. There's probably only going to be so much that I can do with that. Maybe I'll paint each side differently so that I can reverse it if I want. It is a little feeling on the edges, so I'm going to sand it with some fine sandpaper so the edges aren't so scratchy feeling. Okay, I have a sort of idea, so I'm ready to paint. And I'm going to start with a color palette that I know will work well together, mostly because I just don't feel like mixing up custom colors at this second. This is just going to be the background anyway. I'm going to start with the inside, but while I do that, let me tell you about my idea for this box. So obviously one side has like a laser cut rainbow pattern on it, and I spent a long time trying to think of ways that I could turn it into something that is not a rainbow. Like maybe peacocks. Oh, I really thought there was a spider in my headphones. Anyway, so I was going to try to decorate this as peacocks. Maybe. I don't know. I never actually got far enough where I came up with something good, so we're just going to go with rainbows. At least on that side. But I want to be able to turn the box around and use the other side if I want, so I decided that each side was going to be a different color. Including the two ends, which probably won't show that much, and then obviously the inside and the bottom needed to be a different color. And yes, there are 6 sides and there are 6 colors of the rainbow, but I left orange out. I don't know, I'm just feeling a little passive-aggressive towards orange lately. After painting all of the sides, including continually cleaning out these stupid little cut areas, let's move on to the design. For this rainbow side, I wanted to do something at least a little more creative than just painting rainbow stripes. So I thought maybe I'd do different sized dots in a rainbow pattern, kind of like a rainbow mandala. And I was going to use Posca paint markers in pastels because I love pastels, so I'm putting down white dots first to make them pop better. But then I remembered that I've had these glitter acrylic markers from Grabby laying here just waiting for me to try out. So I'm going to use these. Unfortunately, there aren't like super pastel-y glitter colors, so I'm going full bright on these. And as I'm going in, I'm just not really liking it. It's not the glitter markers' fault, like they're very pretty and glittery, but I just don't like how it's all coming together. Looking back at this, I should have just left it how it is with just the rainbow dots. That's not that bad. But I wanted to do something with the rest of the cutouts, so I added progressively darker blues on top of the pointy ones. And then I traced the little teardrop ones with silver. Ugh. Then the corners were looking a little boring compared to all the insanity in the middle, and for some reason I thought the answer to that was to use the black glitter pen to add these gothic-y sort of corner details. Oh boy, what was I thinking? Oh well, remember I said I was going to paint 2 different designs so I could flip the box around? Yeah, let's try to make something worth displaying on this other side. I want to pull in some of the other colors of the box, so I'm using Poscas that really closely match the side colors. And I'm just going to draw on a curvy line pattern. I considered painting a character or something else on here, but I just wasn't feeling the energy and effort to do that. Sometimes I just want to art without thinking about art. Which is also why I use Poscas here. I could have just gotten out the same colors of paint and had it match perfectly, but I really just wanted to chill and draw them on. After 2 coats of Posca, it was looking good, but I wanted to punch it up just a bit. So I used a silver glitter marker to outline each curvy stripe. And I made the lines fatter on the curves to give it a little bit more motion. I really do like these glitter markers. I just need to find the right project for them. After that's all done, I just need to do a few touch-ups, including painting over this blue paint that somehow sneezed itself through the cutout on the inside. And then I'm going to paint the rim and paint the bottom. If you couldn't tell by the fact that I just squeezed paint onto the bottom and spread it around, I am not feeling my most energetic. Life is really just lifing lately, you know? The last step was to seal all of this in with some varnish. Also, if you've ever wondered what it sounds like when I'm not doing a voiceover, this is what you're missing.
BK, have it your way.
Anyway, this box is done. Not my best work, but I don't hate it. I will probably not be displaying that rainbow side though. Next, I'm gonna go for this painting. Well, it's obviously a print, but either way, I bought this and then spent a long time looking at it, thinking, oh, it's some pretty flowers. Oh, there's a butterfly here. And I eventually realized there's a face. I think that I had this at least a couple of months before I ever realized it. That is embarrassing. But now that I've seen it, I have a great plan. I'm really excited about it. But first, I'm going to need to prep this to be painted on. The surface of this is really, really shiny and smooth, so I want to take down that shine a bit and help the paint to stick. So I'm going to go over this with gesso, but since I'm actually going to work with the existing picture and I'm not going to paint over the background, I'm going to go with clear gesso. Once it's dry, it feels so icky and scratchy, so I guess that means it's ready to go. I'm using a white colored pencil to sketch on my idea. I'm going to use the existing face, but I'm going to turn it into a deer. Why a deer? Well, I considered just painting a human girl, but we know how well I do with that. So I started to think, what animals have this same sort of angular, feminine jaw at the bottom? Well, deer don't actually, but when they're drawn all cutesy, they do. Listen, I don't know, it popped into my head and I was really excited about it. I'm using the existing face to make the deer face centered and even. Except the eyes. I struggle with that, but they come out okay in the end. I'm going to use paint markers to color this deer in this case Artex paintbrush tips, because this is going to be a very bold and cartoony deer. And I'm painting around some of the flowers, leaves, and the butterfly because I'm going to leave those in front of the deer. After a couple of coats to even out the color, I can go in with the details. I'm adding some shading, some spots on the forehead, painting on the face, very carefully painting in the eyes. And then once all of that is dried, I added some highlights to the eyes and the nose. Ugh, I'll fix those up. I also added highlights to the antlers because more is more. Once all of that dried and those highlights are poppin', I'm going to move on to the butterfly. Again, this is going to be pretty simple and cartoony in purple and pink. And while that's drying, I'll move on to the leaves. And then go back and add the butterfly's body. And then back to the leaves. This was actually so fun and simple since the objects were already there. I was just sort of filling them in and adding details. Then it was time for the flowers. And I have an idea percolating, so I'm going to go with a very specific color palette for the flowers. Starting with orange, many layers of orange, and then adding a pink tip to outline each petal. Once that was all filled in, this left side is looking pretty empty. So I sketched out some matching flowers and leaves and filled them in. And also covered up this weird shape peeking out from behind the deer. That can just be another flower petal. When I colored in the flowers and then went to add the pink tips, I decided to go back over the original flowers with a second coat, and I grabbed the wrong pink marker. But I actually like this brighter pink better, so go dummy me. Then I finished all the rest of the flowers. And I think the painting looks really good, but it's still really scratchy feeling on the unpainted areas from the clear gesso, so I'm going to coat the whole thing with a matte varnish. I really like the matte look of the paint, but touching it is giving me the heebie-jeebies. After all of that dried, it felt so much better. But now for the part that I've been most excited about. I want to try to turn these flowers into a flower crown by adding real flowers. Well, not real because they're fake, but real 3D flowers. You get it. Anyway, I have all of these bundles of flowers, and I for sure want to use these orange ones, obviously, because that's where I got the color scheme for the ones I painted. And then maybe some of this white stuff. I think it's called baby's breath. Maybe one of these pink ones. Definitely these purple ones to match the butterfly. And then, actually I like this pink one better. Okay, now the problem is that these flowers are pretty big and they all have this plastic stuff on the bottom. So I'm going to pull the center few petals out so that it's a smaller flower. And then I'll keep this little plastic piece in the center, but I'll cut it so that it's shorter and can sit flat. Oh, that's really cute. Do I want this one? No. Okay, to add all of these on, I'm going to use hot glue. I always forget how stringy hot glue is. I'm starting with the baby's breath to make sure that it lays nice, and then I'm going to go in with the flowers. I really loaded the bottoms of the flowers up with glue to give them a bit of a base to really stick on the painting. I also put a little bit of glue into the center of each flower just to give them a little bit extra security. This was looking so cute that I kind of stopped paying as much attention as I should have, and I burned the ever-loving duty out of my finger. Like freshly squeezed hot glue right onto my finger. Once I accepted the consequences of my own actions, I did a little more very careful gluing to keep the petals from blocking the deer's face. Then I left the whole thing to cool off and go ice my finger. But this painting is done. I love it. It's so adorable. Totally makes up for that first project. Okay, the last item I'm going to make over is this water bottle. What to say about it? It's pink, apparently BPA free. I don't know what a BPA is, but that's good. It's plastic, hand wash only, so obviously a very high quality plastic that I'm going to be defacing. It has a screw-on lid, no straw or mouth hole. Okay, first I gotta take off the stickers. And then, since it's pretty smooth and the paint will definitely scratch off, I'm gonna use a sanding block to rough up the surface. Then, to really make sure the paint sticks, I'm gonna do a layer of gesso. And I finally got some new white gesso. I upgraded from that weird, chunky mess that smelled like popcorn. Ah, yes, not a kernel in sight. Or in nose. I threw on 2 coats of gesso, semi-carefully lining the top and the bottom. I'm not going to paint those areas, but I don't feel like taping this off. Then, for the background of this bottle, I'm going to go with this turquoisey mint color in a gradient, with a slightly darker color on the bottom. Sometimes, well, a lot of times, when I'm doing gradients like this, I mix up my colors, and then as I'm working on it, I get a little scared of how intense the difference in color is. So I alter the colors slightly to make them closer, and then by the time I spend an hour blending and drying and blending and drying, you can barely even tell it's 2 different colors. Ugh, well, I'm gonna paint over this anyway. I'm gonna sketch on my design with a white Posca and really pray that I don't mess it up because touch-ups over a gradient are not simple. But I did try a chalk pastel and it just wasn't wanting to work. Now, for this water bottle, I considered painting some scene or a collage of animals or desserts or something. But then I was thinking about how I've been trying to drink more water lately. Well, actually, not more water, but like water at all. I'm a terrible grown up, and I basically have to be like dying of thirst to drink water. I need my caffeine, so it's usually coffee or pop. But I have been able to cut out a lot of pop lately by drinking pink lemonade. I mean, yeah, it's technically not water, but it's like 90% water with a little bit of powder mixed in. So I consider that an improvement. Anyway, that gave me an idea to make this bottle a pink lemonade theme. After I sketched out the design, I filled everything in messily with a white paint marker, just to give it a little bit of a base coat for the color that I'm going to add. Now, for the coloring, I'm going to rest the bottle on a paper towel as I work, just so that it doesn't accidentally get scratched up. I'm using paint markers to color in the lemons, just working my way around the bottle slowly. The dark pink is the outside of the lemon, and the light pink are the slices. This first coat is pretty patchy, so I went over it with a second and even third and fourth coat in some areas. Those darker colors seem way harder to get opaque. Once it was nice and solid, then it was time to go in with the details, adding in the flesh of the orange slices, outlines, texture on the peel, and of course some nice juicy highlights. Citrus slices, while fun to draw and paint, always stress me out trying to get the little flesh pieces even. How does nature do it so easily? But it's all painted and oh, it's so cute. If I saw this water bottle at a store, I would 1000% buy it. I'm a little scared to ruin it, but I am going to coat this with a gloss varnish. If this smudges, I will cry. I can't find the gloss varnish that I usually use, so instead I'm going to use this gloss medium in varnish. I'm going to be so gentle and go over the lemons first to seal them in. I'm making sure not to do multiple strokes over the same area and not really worrying about the background as much right now. This varnish is a lot thicker than the varnish I'm used to working with, so hopefully that doesn't make too much of a difference. Once all the lemons are coated and disaster has been averted, I can go over the background. And then once this whole coat dries, it will be safe to get all crazy with the brush strokes and not worry about smearing anything. The gloss medium that I'm using says that it can be diluted with 25% water, so I'm going to try that so that it doesn't get too clumpy on the bottle. With enough coats, the varnish will eventually smooth out all of the texture. Of course, after all of this, I did end up finding my regular gloss varnish, but oh well. After about 8 coats of varnish, I'm going to call it good. We'll just put the lid back on, and this one is done. I love it so much. I'm not sure that I'll ever actually use it as a water bottle, but maybe it can hold pencils or something. So that's all of them for this week. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.